Okay, guys, welcome back to our write-offs for real estate investors series. And today, Bernard and I are discussing an exciting topic, 1031 exchanges. And you know how we do it. Our format for these episodes is not to overwhelm you with all the technical details, but we want to be very clear about three things that we always discuss in regards to any strategy. So we talk about what is the benefit, then what are the gotchas, how somebody can mess it up, and what are the actual steps when you are executing this strategy. Okay, ready, Bernard?
Let's do it. I'm going to do a screen share and we will dive right into this.
And we're ready to go. So today we are talking 1031 exchanges. And let's start as we usually do. So what is the benefit? Okay, why would we do that? And let me start, I guess, today, and we'll play off of each other as usual. So last time we talked about capital gains. So when you sell a property, there is this tax, which we call capital gain tax, and it could be significant. We're not going to spend time today talking about the technicalities. That's what the last episode was about. But we have capital gain, and then there is that even second one, which makes it worse, which is called depreciation recapture. So bottom line is, when you sell a property, you owe Uncle Sam potentially a lot of taxes. Okay, so the benefit of 1031 exchange is that you don't owe this tax to Uncle Sam, at least not at the time when you sell. Would you agree with me, Bernard, or would you phrase it differently?
No, I think that's exactly it. I would add a little more context to it, which is, when you avoid taxes, it doesn't only help you avoid taxation, it also helps you buy more real estate. Because when you have your full proceeds available for down payment, you get to use leverage. Real estate benefits from leverage. So when you put down 20 to 30%, you get to buy more or less 4 times as much real estate. So for every $10,000 of taxes that you don't pay using 1031 exchange, you're going to get to buy another $40,000 of real estate and benefit from appreciation and rental income on that.
Okay, excellent point. So what we are talking about, guys, again, both Bernard and me, is you are not paying taxes to Uncle Sam at the point of sale. You can use that money to expand your real estate business and make more money. So this is the benefit. I hope everybody is clear on that. Okay, and since both of us are involved in helping investors with conducting 1031 exchanges, we often, unfortunately, see people messing it up. So what is the mess up that you encounter most often?
Yes, the one that I encounter most often is investors trying to start an exchange after their sale closes. The IRS has given us a way to do this, and it's called a safe harbor, and you can be completely confident that it is above board. It's not a loophole, but it requires that you reach out to a 1031 QI like Reshore before your sale closes. I think that's number one. It's heartbreaking to see how often investors reach out to us and saying, I just sold my property, I want to do an exchange. But on that note, we also see investors missing something in the tax analysis side, for which they really require a tax advisor for. And I'm guessing you see this often. So Michael, what are you seeing as the biggest gotcha for investors considering 1031 exchange?
So we definitely see the same thing you mentioned, right? We have those calls from investors who are saying is, okay, I just sold the property, I want to do an exchange, so how do I do an exchange? You don't, too late, buddy. I'm sorry, the ship has sailed. You needed to engage that third party called QI, qualified intermediary, before you sell. So, and the other one is what you were talking about. We sometimes see people who are going into exchange just because they believe that it helps them, but it does not necessarily help them, because there is a complex interplay of different things when you calculate your taxes. So maybe there is a capital gain tax on the sale, and you can calculate that. We talked about last time on our last episode, right? And let's say you figured out there is a capital gain tax of $50,000. Is it worth doing an exchange? Maybe, maybe not, because at the same time, that sale may have unlocked some of the prior losses, and maybe those losses offset the gain. So when you look at the total picture, not just one piece, which capital gain is, but what is your overall bottom line, end of the road, when the dust settled impact? If you sold that property, is your tax bill going up? If yes, by how much? And sometimes that number is not as big as people are afraid of, which makes the exchange less important, and sometimes it's not beneficial outright. So what we are basically talking about is, both of us mentioned two ways you can mess it up. One is going to an exchange when you don't need it. Two, try to do an exchange when you need it but started too late. And too late would be after you already sold your property. Okay.
And I would toss in one other thing, which is, I'd say, a way to mess up an exchange, is the flip side of that, which is investors sometimes assume that their capital gain will be lower. Typically, it's because they calculate their gain off their purchase price rather than off their adjusted basis. So your capital gain tax sometimes is higher, and occasionally investors underestimate their taxes and skip the exchange when they would in fact benefit from it. And of course, not doing an exchange at all is the biggest way to mess it up.
Yes. And what you just were talking about is calculating that capital gain tax and depreciation recapture. For those who have not seen our previous episode, we highly recommend doing that. That's when we talked about that. Before we move to the last part, is execution of an exchange, just one more thing to clarify the benefit. Is that benefit forever? So do we actually avoid capital gain tax as it says on our slide?
So the answer in most cases, or at the time you do the exchange, that's an unknown. 1031 exchange and most tax tools help you avoid the tax today, but you may have to pay the tax at a later date. And the benefit is very often about growing your wealth now without paying the IRS today. Now, there is a way to make the tax benefit permanent. And that is, and Michael, you'll tell me to what extent we should go into this. It's something as known as swap till you drop. Swap, which means if whenever you own real estate and it's gone up in value, if you, or let's say if the investor passes away while they own that property, the capital gains disappear. So the only way to ensure the benefit is permanent is to keep exchanging. You sell one property, you avoid the capital gains by doing a 1031 exchange. When you sell that property, you avoid the taxes by doing an exchange again. And you essentially do this repeatedly until eventually the investor passes on that property to their heirs and the capital gains tax disappears.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Bernard. So if I try to rephrase it in my words, so what we're basically talking about is that 1031 exchange does not kill the tax, it kicks that can down the road. But what Bernard just explained is we can keep kicking that can down the road again and again and again with another exchange, another exchange, another exchange. And if you never sell the property, if the property is left to your heirs, then you may be able to avoid the tax permanently at the end of that road. Do you agree with my explanation?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better.
Okay, perfect. Then we have one last piece left in our thing is execution. So when execution is, okay, what are the steps that an investor must remember to do in order to do an exchange?
The first things, two things an investor should do, and I'd say there's a sequence, there's a 1 and a 2. The moment an investor knows that they're planning to sell a property and they know they're going to list this, they want to talk to a tax professional that knows their complete tax profile, that knows the history of this property, to calculate what will the tax impact, what will the gain be if this property is sold, and to know how that will interact with all the other parts of their tax profile, other gains and losses that they may have that can impact the bottom line of their tax bill from selling that property. Once that tax professional has said that an exchange can be beneficial and is worth exploring, step 2 is to reach out to a 1031 QI and to start the exchange process ahead of the closing. Because we want to avoid, and really these step 1 and steps 2 for execution correspond to the 2 gotchas that we referenced. You want to determine that a 1031 is going to be beneficial, and then you want to execute it properly by working with an experienced QI ahead of the closing.
Perfect. And let us close on shameless promotion, because we happen to be those 2 people that provide the 2 services that are needed in order to execute an exchange. So Bernard, you run Resure, the company that serves as qualified intermediary and actually executes all the formalities of an exchange. And I run REI Tax Firm, the company that can assess and evaluate whether an exchange is beneficial in your particular situation. So again, as we talked about, the benefit could be fantastic, guys. You can mess it up if you don't do it wrong, but in order to not do it wrong, you need 2 people. One is somebody like Bernard to actually serve as a QI, and somebody like me in order to assess the true tax consequences of your sale. And I think with that, we close today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one, where we will be talking for tax rules for flippers. Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time.
Thank you all, and especially thank you, Michael. Always an honor and a pleasure to do these episodes with you.